All right, so you, like me, just broke a belt on your electric skateboard and you need to fix it. So I'm gonna show you how. The tools we're going to need is you have to get a new belt. I'm gonna assume you've already done that. You need a skate tool to take off the rear wheel. And then you need an Allen wrench. At least this is for a meepo Voyager, to take off the guard. And then also you might need it to adjust the motor depending on if the belt is a slightly different size or is stretched a little bit. So those are the three things you need. It's not much. Oh, the other thing is you need some Loctite. You need some thread locker. Like this is M243, so that works great, but you're gonna need some of that. And without further ado, let's get started. Oh, I should mention, this is actually a pretty easy fix. It should only take about 10 minutes, maybe less than that if you're good. So let's go. Here you can see this belt is missing. This belt is brand new. I actually just replaced it. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take off this wheel. And it's really easy. You're just going to, there's this bolt right here. Find whatever side fits on your skate tool, not that one. And you're just gonna unscrew it. One thing to watch though is after you take this off, you can see right there, there's a little washer. So just make sure you don't lose that washer. So I like to put them back in the wheel to hold. And then I'm gonna set it off to the side. And you'll notice the gear came off with my wheel. That's pretty normal. They get stuck on there. And so you can try and pull it off and maybe you'll just be able to, but I never have been. So what I do is I take a nice big thick, something you can poke with. I'm using an Allen wrench. And then I'm gonna put this through the hole, and then you're kind of sticking it in and you can hit it on the ground. That worked it loose. Usually just one or two hits. Now you can tell it came out. There we go. Usually just one or two hits is enough. But sometimes they get pretty caked on there with dirt and grime and stuff. And I just use a thick Allen wrench because I don't want to bend anything. So, all right, cool. That worked. The next step is going to be, you want to take off this guard right here. And on this skateboard, let's get that centered up. On this skateboard, to take off this guard, it's only these two little screws, and those come off with an Allen wrench, just like this. You'll find one that fits. One thing to know is I just took this off about a week ago. I was doing some tuning, but if you haven't taken it off for a while, these can be incredibly tight, and so they can just be difficult, so just work at them. But the other thing is they can get coated in dirt because you're exposed to dirt, and so you might not be able to get a good grip on the screw, and you don't want to strip it. So what I've done in the past, what I just had to do a week ago, because they were so dirty and it's hard to get in there, and you can't fit your finger in there to clean it out. You can't really fit any cloth in there to clean it out. So what I did is I took a tiny baby screwdriver, and you can stick it in and kind of push it around and get some of the dirt out. And then I turn the board over and knock it. I'm trying to hold it in camera view. But anyway, so, and then that worked, and then you can get the dirt out, and then your Allen wrench can fit. But anyway, just a pro tip. Okay, so I dropped it, but it's right here. You can tell they're not too big. There you go, they're not too big. So just put that somewhere safe, don't lose it, and we'll take the other one out. All right, and there the second one comes off. Put it with the first one, put it somewhere safe. Now this guard just pops right off. No problem, it's just covering up the motor. So there, you can see the motor free spinning, great. Now, you're going to want to take your new belt and you're going to just slap it on there. So here's the gear. You put it on the gear. You put this on. And I happen to have just done this, so I'm pretty sure my tension is going to be good. But I should actually mention, if your tension is too tight or too loose, these 4 screws right here are holding the motor. And if you loosen these screws, what I like to do is loosen 3 of them really well, and then loosen the 4th, or maybe take 3 out and loosen the 4th, and then you can move the motor, and then you can just screw the 4th in a little bit, and it'll hold the motor in place while you tighten up the other 3. But then that way you can get the right tension on the belt. And if you don't know how to properly tension a belt, I'll probably watch a different video on it. But it's basically not too tight, not too loose. If you do it too loose, the belt will slip while you're braking. And if you do it too tight, it's not actually that much of a problem, but you'll be less efficient, so it takes more energy. Okay, so here's the best way I've found to do it, because it's too tight, and if you put the gear all the way on, then you know you're having to stretch the belt up and around. So what I do is I pull the gear partially off, then I pull this, or make sure the teeth, maybe make sure it's in the teeth right here. Then I pull it partially up, so you're trying to align it, and then this one actually slides, not easily, but slides on there. So now you got the belt on. To my eye, I would say this is probably too tight. You can tell it's got some bend in it, but like I said, I actually leave them a little too tight at the start because these brand new belts sometimes stretch out. Just my opinion. I could be totally wrong about that. But after maybe a week of riding, if the belt still feels too tight to me, I'll probably come back and adjust it. And like I said, yeah, you just loosen these four and then you can move the motor. Just make sure after you loosen these screws that are holding the motor, you reapply Loctite because they get a lot of vibration. So that's it. That's as easy as it is to replace your belt. So now what I'm going to do is put the belt guard back on, just like we had it. And now I'm gonna put these screws back on. Now I'm going to be putting Loctite on these screws too. And I just exploded my Loctite a little bit. So here, I'm just gonna dip it. Let's see, can you see that? I'm just gonna dip the screw a little bit. Oh, I made a mess. You really don't need that much Loctite. I'm trying to look through the camera and it's hard to do stuff looking through the camera. And there, it's about to get tight. So I'm gonna just leave that. Do the same thing with the other screw. I just have spilled, so that's why I'm going around the edge, because there's Loctite on the edge. And that's plenty. And this one you can do tight. You just don't want to really tighten down one side while the other side doesn't have any screw holding it. You can create some awkward tension imbalances. Probably doesn't matter, it's just good practice. So now I'll tighten this down and tighten that down. Okay, that's good to go. I'm gonna cap up the Loctite so I don't spill it everywhere anymore. Okay, and then the last thing is just to put your wheel back on. One thing you'll notice, it's a little hard to see, hopefully you can see it, is there's a little bearing right in there. If I get it off center, see how it looks like? You can see the bearing right in there. So you have to line that up or obviously it won't go on. So what I do is I just stick an Allen wrench straight through the middle like this. Then I put that on the, I guess maybe it'd be called the drive shaft, and then it'll slot in nice. Then you push it in, you are good to go. Center that up. Then make sure that you've got your washer from before, you didn't lose that. And then you got your nut, and we'll screw that in, and we'll tighten it down with a skate tool. This, you don't want to crank it down. If you do it too tight, it'll actually hold the wheel in place. But if you do it too loose, the wheel will fall off. So there, just do it tight. Make sure it still turns fine. It's actually a little bit too tight. And that's great. Spinning. One easy way that you can check if the belt is way too loose is you can grab the motor with one hand and then you grab the wheel with the other and see you're turning them different directions or just holding one and turning the other and just see if you can spin it. And if you can't spin it, then it's probably, it's not too loose if you can't spin it. And there you go, now you've replaced a belt. The last thing I would do is just turn the board on, turn the remote on, make sure it works. And then what I do, here, let's see, is I take it for a test ride because sometimes I'm sure this is too tight, so I'm not worried about that. You can see how much looser this one is. So that actually might be a problem. I might have to fix that later. But I'd take it for a test ride and see how it breaks. If it's too loose, when you brake hard, you're going to notice the belt is skipping and you'll hear a click sound. It'll go as you brake hard, and that's a sign that it's too loose. And if it's too tight, you'll just get less range as far as I'm aware. Maybe unless it's really too tight, maybe it'll break, I don't know. But I think this will loosen up with a little riding, and if it doesn't, I'll adjust this motor so it's looser. But anyway, that's how you replace the belt. It's pretty easy. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. Talk to you guys later. See ya.